Hey guys, it's Ryan with Big Dog Investing. Thank you guys for tuning into my channel. If you guys could do a couple of things for me, if you guys can go ahead and like, comment, subscribe to my channel if you guys have not done so already. Click the bell notification down below so that YouTube can send you guys notifications whenever I release videos. Watch my videos all the way to the end. And if you could, please share my videos and share my channel with anyone. I'm trying to grow my channel as much as I can, and I definitely need your guys' help in doing so. Getting started today is going to be Sunday, March 12th. We've been roughly about 150 subscribers for the past couple of days. I wanted to let you guys know again, we are going to be doing another giveaway at 500 subscribers. So the faster we get to 500 subscribers, the faster it is that another giveaway is going to be happen. So just be on the lookout for that. But this is going to be part two of our update. We talked about in part one the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, and it needed its own video because there was a lot of information and it was super important that it actually needed to be just talked about in one single video. This is part two for the daily market update, where we're going to be talking about a lot of the stuff that's happened in the financial markets, including still the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, because more information did come out because of that. Another bank just collapsed as well, Signature Bank. Their state seized the bank, and we're going to talk about that in this video and what to look out for. So getting started, you guys should make sure you guys tune in all the way to the end of this video, though, because we're going to talk about the new bank that just collapsed. We're going to talk about President Biden releasing a statement on basically what's going to be happening tomorrow. He's going to be releasing a statement and having a press conference, as well as in the last video, I talked about how Ripple was supposed to release a statement. We were kind of just waiting around for it. Brad Garlinghouse actually did release a statement on it, so we're going to go over that. So the total market cap for all cryptocurrencies right now is $1,018,000,000,000. This is a 7.47% increase on the day. Now, we were at a 4.06% increase, and we did jump up roughly 3%, of 3.41 if you guys wanted to be exact. And in my opinion, it's due to the federal government basically releasing a statement that they're going to back all money that was in those banks, when Janet Yellen came out and said that they weren't going to do that. So we're going to go over that here in a second. Bitcoin right now is currently trading at $22,302. Ethereum is trading at $1,597, and XRP is trading at 36.5 cents. Now, Bitcoin and Ethereum are both up a little over 8%, while XRP is only up less than 1%. It is still up, but it needs to be known that XRP did not have the same momentum as all the other cryptocurrencies, and we're going to talk about that. But I wanted to point out, when I showed that USDC was not pegged to the dollar anymore, technically it's almost there, not exactly yet, but it's doing a lot better than it was. In my last video, it was at 97 cents. It did reach a low point of 88 cents. I found another chart on it. So we have to make sure that, it stays pegged to the dollar. So Circle ended up having a bunch of money in Silicon Valley Bank. It now is being backed by the federal government, which in turn now repegged it back to the dollar. So make sure you guys, are aware of what's going on, especially if you guys hold stable coins. Our biggest gainers on the day, everything's going to be basically in green. We do have a red, which is Leo at minus 4.7%. But overall, we were up by drastic numbers. SNX is up 32.1%. CFX is going to be up 33.3%. There's many others, but I wanted to point out that Filecoin is up 22.7%. It's one of the coins that I currently hold, and I do enjoy that coin quite a bit. Again, no financial advice, but in my opinion, we're only up due to President Biden's statement that he released. Now, this was released a couple days ago when Silicon Valley Bank just collapsed and Janet Yellen released a statement. So John Deaton is replying to this guy, David, and David says that Yellen was in Kyiv, or however you pronounce it, it's in Ukraine, last week to reassure Ukraine that the U.S. financial aid would continue. But she can't reassure 10,000 small businesses that their deposits are safe. She says she's monitoring the situation. Give me a break. To which John Deaton replies, regardless of your stance on Russia and Ukraine, you must admit that the statement below will resonate with a lot of people. Now, I completely agree with this. And the reason why I agree with this is it blows my mind that the US is still in a financial crisis, yet we're promising billions, not just, hundreds, not thousands, not millions, but billions of dollars to other countries in aid, while we're having small businesses on the brink of bankruptcy. banks getting basically insolvent because they can't figure out how to manage their own assets and manage their own consumer funds. And our federal government says, sorry, it is what it is. The American people continue to hurt while we're giving billions of dollars away in aid. Where's that money magically coming from? Because if we don't have enough money to help our American people who actually put in those taxpayer dollars, then how are we sending it somewhere else? So I just wanted to point that out there. Watcher Guru says that US says Signature Bank was closed today by state authority. We're going to talk about that as well. President Biden did release a statement right after Signature Bank did close. He says right here, at my discretion, Secretary Yellen and my National Economic Council director worked with banking regulators to address problems at Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. These are the two banks that have collapsed in the past 2 days. I am pleased to reach that they have a solution that protects workers, small businesses, taxpayers, and our financial system. Now, I want to point this out there because this kind of just blows my mind that he keeps saying that his plan is working, his plan is working, his plan is working. But what have we seen? We've seen a bunch of exchanges collapse for cryptocurrency. We've seen a bunch of banks now become insolvent. And when what's going on? Aren't we supposed to have people that are supposed to protect us like the SEC? It just blows my mind that these SEC allowed FTX to collapse, allowed Silvergate to collapse, allowed Silicon Valley Bank to collapse, allowed now Signature Bank to collapse. But they're doing a great job ruling by enforcement, by putting lawsuits at Kraken, by taking library to court, by suing Ripple, and still is in the process of that case as well, over 2.5 years. That's where their time is. With other corporations and small businesses, when these big banks are getting insolvent, losing customer funds, this just blows my mind that we allowed this to happen in the SEC, which is supposed to, by their job title, protect the average American in their businesses and their money, and they obviously are failing at that. So we need to figure this out. And in my opinion, Gary Gensler needs to be held accountable for what he's done because he's allowing this to happen, because it's going underneath his radar, because he's too busy trying to rule by enforcement and get jurisdiction over the cryptocurrency market, and instead in having a fight with the FTC rather than just trying to figure it out and just basically coming together as a whole and saying, I'll figure out this part of cryptocurrency, you figure out this part of cryptocurrency, and we'll come up with some rules, and then banks and corporations, as well as new coins and stuff like that, can actually have clarity in the market, which still has not happened again for over 2.5 years in the Ripple case. Eleanor Tourette says that these banks right here are to watch. This chart is courtesy of Fox Business VP editorial. So these are all the banks right here that had money in Silicon Valley Bank. So if you guys are in any of these banking institutions, I would highly encourage you guys to really think about your guys' money and where you guys are currently holding it. I'm not going to go over all of those banks, but everything's going to be posted in the comments for you guys to look after. So right here, she also posted Geneva Rich Rector says companies that have disclosed exposure with Silicon Valley Bank circle 3.3 billion. This is where the USDC coin ended up be getting depegged from the dollar down to 88 cents from a previous dollar, because they had so much money in holdings inside Silicon Valley Bank. Now, with them being able to pull money out and the federal government basically saying, I got you, it now went back to a dollar, in my opinion. It's at 99 cents, 99.3. Just depends on what time period you look at it. So, in my opinion, it's back. Roku, BlockFi, Roblox, Ginkgo, and it goes on. All of these basically businesses had exposure in Silicon Valley Bank. Now, we're going to wait and see what happens, especially with tomorrow. Make sure you guys tune in to that press conference that Biden and Secretary Yellen are going to go after. Wall Street Silver says our debt limit maxed out at 31.4 trillion. Yet somehow the US Treasury can back all bank deposits in the USA with with unlimited risk and make all depositors whole, while banks have 600 billion in unrealized losses on their books. You can't taper a Ponzi. And in my opinion, I agree with this. We talked about in the last video how the CEO, CFO, and the CTO, um, all of those people in Silicon Valley Bank sold $4.4 million worth of shares, where the CEO took the largest at $3.6 million shares, sold them within 12 days of their collapse. And now they basically are going to get away scot free because the bank's going to come back. He released a little bit of an apology video and says, I don't know how this could have happened. But in my opinion, did he know it was happening, especially with selling all of those stocks at one time? Mr. Whale says JP Morgan has 28 billion in cash and a whopping 3.37 trillion in liabilities. That's less than 1% of their balance sheet. The reality is nearly 95% of all US banks are deeply insolvent. The trend we're seeing is only just the beginning. And this just shows that basically banks are operating right now with no regulation. If this is true, they're operating with no regulation. The SEC does not care about JP Morgan, does not care about Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, Wells Fargo, any of the other banks. They are not holding deposits in cash. So basically, all of their money's out in loans or invested in other companies, in corporations, and other banks. And as they become insolvent, they end up losing a bunch of money. And they're just basically hoping the federal government's going to come back and say, I got you, especially with Biden coming out and saying that they have a plan to figure this out. In my opinion, if we allow our federal government right now to back Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank at 100%. Basically, what that means is that any CEO, CFO, CMO at any of these businesses or banks or corporations or anything like that, as long as they say, I'm sorry, they will get money from the federal government so they can operate with no risk. Everything's risk free. So they can basically throw money away, hope to get rich quick with these banks. And then if they lose it, don't worry, the federal government's got you. It's just ridiculous. So, breaking, the government announces that all Silicon Valley bank depositors will have full access to their funds tomorrow. Now, with this, I do believe that there's going to be a bank rush tomorrow. And I do see this here if you guys don't even have Silicon Valley Bank or Signature Bank. Because I heard Signature Bank is going to be open tomorrow as well. I do see a lot of people going to the banks tomorrow to pull out all of their cash. You guys are going to see long lines. I want you guys just to be aware of that. Getting into some of our Watcher Guru news, U.S. Unemployment rate increases to 3.6%. Binance launches a crypto MasterCard in Colombia. This just keeps on showing that Binance is just still dominating the market, especially because, in my opinion, it is the number one exchange. In my opinion, it's the most trustworthy exchange. Again, no financial advice in anything that I say, but I do believe that Binance is the most trustworthy. I do think that Coinbase is the most user friendly, though. I will add that. Biden says that his economic plan is working, yet all of these banks are collapsing left and right. In my opinion, I don't believe that he's right. They keep on saying that they're doing everything in their power, but obviously it's not working. The American people are still suffering. Um, the president and CEO of Silicon Valley Bank, Greg Beckner, was a Class A director at the San Francisco Federal Reserve. He was released from this position. So that was really interesting that, he was part of the Federal Reserve in San Francisco. We talked about this right here. Circle confirms that $3.3 billion of their $40 billion reserves are in the collapsed Silicon Valley Bank. And that's what caused the depegging of USDC. Silicon Valley Bank chief administrative officer served as Lieberman Brothers CFO prior to joining the bank, and I believe the Lieberman Brothers Bank did go under as well. There's just so much news that has been happening. It just blows my mind. But a lot of this is basically going off of the Silicon Valley Bank. But if you guys haven't followed Watcher Guru, I would highly recommend that you guys do. Shiba Inu launches decentralized blockchain beta called Shibri. Shibrum. Now, in my opinion, this is just another meme thing. I would definitely avoid all of this. Again, no financial advice, but Dogecoin, Shiba Inu, they even have like Elon coin now. they all have no utility. Basically, people have come up with this idea that if Shiba Inu just gets to $1, I'm gonna get rich, and that's not true. Bank of England to place Silicon Valley Bank UK into insolvency procedure. So it just shows how far Silicon Valley Bank reached. It reached all the way to the UK. Binance CEO says that it feels like there is a coordinated effort to shut down crypto friendly banks. And I 100% agree with this. He also did release a statement that basically came out and said that all of these banks are trying, or all of these coordination attacks on crypto are failing. Banks are closing down, but crypto is still running. And in my opinion, I 100% agree with that. You know, at any time I can, buy, sell, trade. If I wanted to send money to somebody else in my family that absolutely needs money, I can do that at any point. But if I have my money at, a bank, whether it's Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, any of these banks, I'm going to have a waiting period. One, I have to wait for the bank to even open for me to be able to do that. But then two, it takes a long time and high fees to be able to do that. Right here, we talked about how Secretary Yellen rules out of a bailout of Silicon Valley Bank. She was overruled by President Biden with this. And in my opinion, I don't know how I feel about that, because I don't think that the federal government should be able to do this, because now banks are going to operate with no regulatory clarity. And basically, they're just going to have no risk. They can do whatever they want to as long as they say, I'm sorry. U.S. officials consider bailing out Silicon Valley Bank deposits, which they ended up doing. Biden released a statement. The website did go offline, so that was kind of good. They deactivated their Twitter. I'm sure that they were getting reamed online. A bunch of people talked that, hey, I have all my money in there, writing bad reviews. I'm sure they're getting death threats. It should never get to the point where there is death threats, in my opinion. U.S. Treasury official says this situation is not like the 2008 financial crisis. In my opinion, I'm kind of iffy right now, because we need to wait what happens with Monday, because on Monday, that's when people are going to be rushing to the banks. They're going to try to pull out their money. Are they going to actually be able to pull out their money? That's going to be the real question. This one was kind of interesting right here. I like Zach Rector a lot, and says, now we get to blame crypto startups and beg for more regulations. Government gets to expand. JP Morgan and gang get to buy up the competition. Joe Biden confirms his economic plan is working. And I 100% agree with this. In my opinion, this is a coordinated attack. You know, these banks are going insolvent. The bigger banks are buying up all of these assets. We talked about how the FDIC in the last video is basically doing an auction for the assets that are at Silicon Valley Bank. And I'm sure that's going to be the same thing that's going to be happening at Signature Bank. Signature Bank is just a little bit newer right now, so we're still getting a little bit of information. And what I mean by newer is it's just coming out that the state just took over. But who's going to be buying up the assets at Silicon Valley Bank? It's going to be these big corporations, these big businesses, like these big banks like JP Morgan. And they're going to keep on growing. Coinbase comes out and says right here, despite the turbulence we have seen in the traditional banking sector recently, Coinbase continues to operate as usual, except they did suspend USDC. I do want to point that out there. Coinbase continues to operate as usual. At Coinbase, all client funds continue to be safe and accessible using USDC conversions, which will resume on Monday. So they say that they're operating 100% fully, but you're not allowed to convert any money into USDC. So I disagree with that. All client cash at banks continue to be protected by FDIC pass-through insurance. Due to the FDIC's hold on signature transactions, we currently facilitating all client cash transaction with other banking partners. And this is what I agree with. I think that if a company has money in other banks and people want their funds, they need to figure out a way to be able to get those consumers their funds, because that's where trust in business actually lies. If you say, hey, I'm sorry, it's held up, give me like till Tuesday next week and I got you, you're really not going to lend your buddy any money anymore if they do that, especially if they promise they're going to get you their money whenever you need it. So Coinbase also says that as of close of business on Friday, March 10th, Coinbase had approximately 240 million balance in corporate cash at Signature. As stated by the FDIC, we expect to fully recover these funds. Now, Do I agree that they should get all of this money? Yeah, but I do believe that anybody at Signature Bank or Silicon Valley Bank, the executives and the owners and the CEO are to blame, and they need to basically pay up this money to back to the consumers. It doesn't need to be coming out of our taxpayer dollars. Mason Versluis says ISO 20022 goes live and is on March 20th, 2023. All ISO coins may pump based on this narrative. Even though we know crypto coins cannot be ISO compliant, the narrative is still believed and could affect price. So look out for XRP, XLM, Quant, XDC, IOTA, and Algo to pump this week, especially because they're going to go live on the 20th. Basically, ISO 20022 is a messaging system. And these cryptocurrency coins that were just said do operate in that messaging system. So they're not technically ISO compliant, but they do work in those messaging systems. So I do see that these coins do pump in a little bit, so make sure you guys look out on that. And Digital Perspectives comes out, and this is where I was talking about how XRP did not go up in price as much. So Digital Perspective says to this guy, Duncan, not sure if this would indicate a settlement, but I'm reminded that a ruling is expected any day now. So Duncan comes out and says, this smells like a settlement. And this guy to Matt, XRP Patriot, says, it's nothing. Just about 900 million XRP is on the move. So if we look at the Ripple balance sheet right here, transferred a crap ton of Ripple was transferred from Ripple to unknown wallet, transferred from unknown wallet to unknown wallet, transferred from unknown wallet to unknown wallet, and all of this stuff is now transferred to Bitstamp. In my opinion, it's nice because you can basically track any transaction in cryptocurrency. So they were able to figure out that this money did come from Ripple. And are they selling their cryptocurrency now? In my opinion, it was sold. And the reason why it was sold was to pay off something. Now, is this to pay off a settlement? Is this to pay off the lawyers? Or did they need more cash on hand due to the bank for Silicon Valley Bank collapsing, and they're unsure if they were going to get that money back? So it's just really interesting to see that this happened. But in my opinion, this is the reason why XRP's price action did not happen as big as Bitcoin and Ethereum did. Brad Garlinghouse is the last thing that we're going to talk about. Brad Garlinghouse released a statement saying that setting the record straight on Silicon Valley Bank questions. Ripple had some exposure to Silicon Valley Bank. It was a banking partner and held some of our cash balance. Fortunately, we expect no, in all capitals, disruption to our day-to-day business and already held a majority of our USD with a broader network of banking partners. Obviously, a lot is still unknown about what happens with Silicon Valley Bank, and is the case with many others. We hope to have more details soon, but rest assured, Ripple remains in a strong financial position. It's ironic that so much of what's happening, as some companies scramble to make payroll, highlights how broken our financial system still is and still is are. Examples: wires are still not 24/7, 365 days. Rumors lead to collapse and the frictions of moving money with a deeply fragmented system. And I 100% agree with this. And what I want to point out also is when crypto started going down, when Bitcoin was trading at $70,000 and slowly started to drop down, a bunch of these crypto exchanges and crypto businesses were laying off employees because the hype was no longer there. People got into crypto because they're like, hey, it's a get rich quick scheme. It's not. It's long, it's grueling. You have to be knowledgeable and being willing to, ride the waves, especially when they're not looking so good. But what a lot of these businesses started doing, and when businesses, I mean cryptocurrency exchanges, when a lot of them started to realize that crypto was starting to drop, they started laying off employees. Not Ripple. Ripple was actually the only one that was actually hiring massive amounts of employees to be able to operate Ripple and make sure that it's ready for whenever this lawsuit ends, which I hope is in the coming weeks. I don't know for sure. I don't hope. I really hope we don't go to trial, but we don't know. It's been 2.5 years, and in my opinion, it could be another year until we figure out exactly what's going on. But I wanted to point out what Brad Garlinghouse said and put it into perspective for you guys. So thank you guys. Make sure you guys tune in. Tuesday is going to be the CPI report, and that's going to show where our economy is at. Tomorrow, especially, watch and look out for President Biden's speech on banks for Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank. Those are the two biggest things that you guys need to look out for. I'll release videos on those after they're over. So make sure you guys tune into my channel for that. Thank you guys. If you guys can't invest with the big dogs, stay on the porch. Have a good one.